بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة، حضورنا الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسعدني أن أرحب بكم في حفل إطلاق الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية. واسمحوا لي أن أعرفكم بنفسي. معكم خالد بن علي كمال العمادي من إدارة الاستجابة للحوادث السيبرانية والتعافي بشؤون عمليات الأمن السيبراني الوطني. حضورنا الكريم، أطلقت الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني قبل أشهر قليلة الاستراتيجية الوطنية الثانية للأمن السيبراني، وإننا نجتمع اليوم لنطلق إحدى المبادرات الهامة التي تتوافق مع تنفيذ هذه الاستراتيجية، والتي من شأنها دعم مؤسسات الدولة في التعامل مع الحوادث السيبرانية بكفاءة. أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة، دعونا نستهل حفلنا هذا بكلمة من سعادة المهندس عبد الرحمن بن علي الفراهيد المالكي، رئيس الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني، فليتفضل مشكورا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يسعدني الترحيب بكم في حفل إطلاق إحدى المبادرات الهامة التي تسعى إلى تعزيز أمن فضائنا السيبراني من خلال مساهمتها في الاكتشاف السريع والاستجابة والاستعادة الفورية للخدمات الوطنية. وتعد هذه المبادرة من المبادرات الأساسية الرامية إلى تحقيق أهداف الاستراتيجية الوطنية الثانية للأمن السيبراني المنبثقة من رؤية قطر الوطنية 2030. الحضور الكريم، يسرنا اليوم الإعلان عن إطلاق الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية، والذي يهدف إلى تلبية الاحتياجات والتحديات المستجدة لدولة قطر من خلال وضع نهج شامل ومنسق لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية ذات التأثير الوطني. ويعد هذا الإطار مبادرة هامة لتعزيز قدرة الدولة ومؤسساتها للتعامل مع الحوادث السيبرانية والاستجابة لها بفاعلية. لقد صممت الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني الإطار وفقا لأفضل الممارسات العالمية الخاصة بحوكمة الأمن السيبراني، وبشكل يضمن تعاون جهات الدولة عند التعامل مع الحوادث السيبرانية باختلاف أنواعها التقنية والتشغيلية والأمنية، ويحمي بالتالي مكتسبات الدولة من أصول وموارد، ويضمن استمرارية أعمالها. الحضور الكريم، يعد الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية مرجعاً استراتيجياً للقيادة الفعالة لإدارة الحوادث التي تهدد الأمن الوطني واستمرارية الخدمات الحيوية، ويضمن استعادة التشغيل الموثوق للخدمات خلال عملية إدارة الحادثة والاستجابة لها والتعافي منها. ويتميز الإطار بكونه إطاراً مبنياً على آلية وعناصر مرنة وقابلة للتكيف والتحديث مع المتغيرات المحيطة، كما ويمثل خطوة نوعية نحو حماية الفضاء السيبراني لدولة قطر، مما يعزز الثقة في قدرتنا السيبرانية الوطنية. السيدات والسادة، أن تطبيق إجراءات الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية يعد مسؤولية مشتركة تتطلب تضافر جهود كافة جهات الدولة مع الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني لحماية فضائنا السيبراني وضمان سلامته، والمساهمة في تلبية متطلبات التنمية الوطنية المستدامة ودعم مكانة دولة قطر، وجعلها في طليعة الدول الرائدة في مجال الأمن السيبراني إقليميا وعالميا. وختاما، اسمحوا لي أن أتوجه بالشكر الجزيل لكافة الشركاء الذين ساهموا بشكل مباشر في إعداد الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية، كما أشكرهم على مشاركتهم الفعالة في الاجتماعات وورش العمل التي أثرت الإطار. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
شكرا سعادة رئيس الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني. الحضور الكريم، هناك جهود عديدة تبذل عند وقوع أي حادثة سيبرانية، وذلك بغرض احتوائها وتجنب تفاقمها. ومن خلال الفيديو القادم سنسلط الضوء على هذه الجهود.
اليوم كان عادي مثل أي يوم في الوكالة، وفجأة وصلنا الآخر.
أخوي عندنا مشكلة بالنظام، ما احنا قادرين ندخل على السيستم، وأغلبية أجهزتنا طالعة على شاشة سوداء وإن معلوماتنا مشفرة، ولازم ندخل عشان نفك التشفير، والدعم الفني اللي عندنا مو عارفين نعمل.
تم استلام البلاغ وجاري التنسيق مع الجهات الأخرى للتعامل مع الحادث، وبأسرع وقت راح تلاقون فريق الاستجابة عندكم، لكن محتاج منك كل شوية معلومات.
تم رفع البلاغ فورا، درسنا الحالة وقيمناها، وبناء على نتيجة التصنيف تبين أنها حادثة على مستوى الوطني. تواصلنا مع وزارة الداخلية تحديدا
إدارة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية.
شكلنا الفرق الاستراتيجية والفنية، وبدأ الكيل في الانتشار. الفريق الاستراتيجي يخطط والفني يحلل. فريق الاستجابة يتحرك فورا للجهة المعنية. مع مساعدة فريق مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية تم دراسة الحادثة من أرض الواقع وجمع البيانات المطلوبة وكل ما توفر من معلومات، وبدأت الاستجابة الفورية لاحتواء الهجوم قبل تفاقمه. رجعنا بالأدلة لمقر الوكالة لدراسة وفحص كل معلومة فيها، وهني اكتشفنا أن الموضوع منفصل. قدرنا نعرف المجموعة المهاجمة، واتضح وجود احتمال كبير بأنها استهدفت جهات متعددة في دولة الإطار، وأن الانتشار كان مجرد مسألة وقت. تم تصعيد التصميم للحادثة الوطنية، فعلنا خطة طوارئ واستمر العمل لساعات متواصلة. تم تحذير كل الجهات المستهدفة من المخاطر وإرسال فرق مخصصة لكل جهة مشتبه بتضررها. فتم عزل الأجهزة المتضررة وتحليلها والتعرف على الثغرة ومعالجتها، وتم تقديم إرشادات التعافي لاستعادة الأنظمة والخدمات الإلكترونية. العملية انتهت، ولكن فرق العمل مستمرة في مراقبة الوضع العام ومتابعة تنفيذ الخطط العلاجية، والتأكد من جاهزية الجهات لمواجهة هذه المخاطر في المستقبل من خلال تطبيق الدروس المستفادة. هذه الخطوات هي في الحقيقة أطر عمل واضحة ونهج مدروس عملت الوكالة على إنشائه منذ سنوات تحت اسم الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية، الذي طورت نسخته الأولى بين عامين 2021 و 2022، وتم تحديثه لمرتين خلال عام 2023 ليكون جاهزا للنشر خلال عام 2025 ليحمي الجميع من الحوادث السيبرانية والتحديات الرقمية.
أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة، صمم الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية لمواجهة التهديدات والحوادث السيبرانية وإدارتها بفعالية. ولإلقاء الضوء على الإطار بشكل مفصل، اسمحوا لي أن أدعو المهندس ماجد بن محمد السليطي، مدير إدارة الاستجابة للحوادث السيبرانية والتعافي بالوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني، ليقدم لنا عرضا حول الإطار ومخرجاته.
أصحاب السعادة، السيدات والسادة، الحضور الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إنه لشرف لي أن أقف أمامكم اليوم في حفل إطلاق الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية، والذي يعد خطوة محورية نحو تعزيز أمن الفضاء السيبراني في دولة قطر وتأمين بنيتها الحيوية. حضورنا الكريم، إننا نشهد تطوراً سريعاً ومتواصلاً في مجال التكنولوجيا والفضاء السيبراني، اللذين أصبحا من الأعمدة الأساسية التي ترتكز عليها الحياة اليومية والأعمال والبنية التحتية الحيوية. ويصاحب هذا الاعتماد العديد من المخاطر والتهديدات السيبرانية التي قد تؤثر على خصوصية البيانات والأمن الاقتصادي والوطني، ووصولاً إلى استمرارية الأعمال. وقد أصبحت هذه التحديات أكثر تعقيداً وانتشاراً وضرراً مما يضعنا أمام مسؤولية مشتركة لمواكبة هذا التطور وحماية مصالحنا على كافة الأصعدة. الحضور الكريم، لقد بدأنا خطواتنا الأولى في العمل على مشروع الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية منذ عام 2021، حيث قمنا بإجراء العديد من الأبحاث والدراسات المفصلة وتقييم المخاطر، كما وضعنا الخطط الاستراتيجية اللازمة لإرساء أسس هذا الإطار من خلال التعاون والتنسيق مع مختلف جهات الدولة. وخلال عامي 2023 و2024 عقدنا مجموعة من ورش العمل المتخصصة مع الشركاء المعنيين بإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية وجهات الدولة الحيوية، وذلك لتعميق الفهم المشترك وتعزيز التنسيق. إلى جانب ذلك قمنا بإجراء التمارين والمناورات الداخلية لاختبار الإجراءات التي يشتمل عليها هذا الإطار، وذلك للتأكد من فاعليتها في مواجهة التحديات السيبرانية. وقد شكلت مخرجات هذه الورش اختباراً عملياً أتاح لنا قياس مدى مرونة الإجراءات وآلية التنسيق بين مختلف القطاعات، ووضع خارطة طريق لتحديد المبادرات المطلوبة لتمكين جهات الدولة من إدارة الحوادث السيبرانية بشكل فعال. وإننا اليوم نفخر بالإعلان عن إطلاق الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية، والذي يمثل خطوة هامة في تعزيز أمن الفضاء السيبراني في دولة قطر. السيدات والسادة، يرتكز الإطار على 7 عناصر رئيسية، وهي القيادة والتحكم، ويكون بالإشراف على عملية إدارة الحوادث واتخاذ القرارات المناسبة والتعاون مع الشركاء المحليين والدوليين. والعنصر الثاني يتمثل في الكشف المبدئي والتغطية المستمرة من خلال البحث والتحليل ومراقبة الشبكات والأنظمة والقطاعات بالتعاون مع الجهات المختلفة. أما العنصر الثالث فهو التحقيق، والذي يشمل التحليل الفني والاحتواء والتحقيقات الجنائية. ومن عناصر الإطار أيضاً الاستجابة الاستراتيجية الوطنية من خلال اتخاذ القرارات الاستراتيجية المناسبة حسب مخرجات الحادثة السيبرانية. والعنصر الخامس من عناصر الإطار هو المعالجة والتعافي، والذي يتم عبر تقديم إرشادات التعافي التشغيلية والفنية واستعادة الخدمات والأنظمة ومتابعة تطبيقها. ويتمثل العنصر السادس في التنظيمات والمعايير والامتثال والشراكة، ويشمل الحوكمة والتنظيم والامتثال لمعايير الأمن السيبراني. وأخيراً المراجعة الوطنية للحوادث، وتكون بدراسة مخرجات الحوادث وتحسين القدرات الوطنية. كما يتضمن الإطار مراحل عملية تبدأ بالمرحلة الأولى وهي الإبلاغ والتصنيف، تليها المرحلة الثانية الخاصة ببدء الاستجابة للحادثة، ومن ثم المرحلة الثالثة وهي الاستجابة والتحقيق، وبعد ذلك المرحلة الرابعة المتمثلة في المعالجة والتعافي. أما المرحلة الخامسة والأخيرة فهي مرحلة الإغلاق والمراجعة. كما يصنف الإطار الحوادث السيبرانية ل4 تصنيفات: التصنيف الأحمر، ويمثل حادثة يتم تنسيقها على مستوى الدولة. أما التصنيف البرتغالي فيمثل الحوادث التي يتم تنسيقها على مستوى القطاع. ويمثل التصنيف الأصفر الحوادث التي يتم تنسيقها على مستوى الجهة. وأخيراً التصنيف الأبيض، والذي يمثل حادثة ليس لها تأثير وطني. ومن شأن هذه التصنيفات تحديد الأدوار والمسؤوليات بين الجهات المستجيبة والجهات المتضررة من الحادثة، وتكون هذه التصنيفات مبنية على تقييم فني. وبدءا من هذا اليوم ستتولى الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني المهام التالية: أولا، تدريب الجهات المعنية على إجراءات الإطار الوطني من خلال تقديم الورش التوعوية. كما ستقوم بمتابعة تطبيق لإجراءات الإطار وتقديم الدعم المطلوب. وستعمل الوكالة على تنظيم التمارين والمناورات السيبرانية الدورية لاختبار فاعلية الإجراءات مع مختلف الجهات من خلال تطبيق سيناريوهات تعكس التحديات الواقعية وستكون البداية في المناورة السيبرانية الوطنية لهذا العام. كما سنستمر في العمل على العديد من المبادرات الوطنية، ومنها تقديم المبادئ التوجيهية للقطاعات للتأكد من جاهزية مسؤولي القطاعات لإدارة الحوادث، بالإضافة إلى تمكين جهات الدولة الحيوية من إدارة الحادثة وحماية الأصول والممتلكات الرقمية. كما سنقوم بتطبيق وربط أنظمة إدارة الحوادث بين جهات الدولة لتعزيز الجانب التكنولوجي وتسهيل الوصول للمعلومات أثناء الحادثة. ويأتي الهدف من هذه الجهود المتتابعة والمستمرة لدراسة وتحديد المتغيرات في مجال الأمن السيبراني ومواكبة التطور الرقمي، وإجراء التحسينات والتحديثات اللازمة للإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث السيبرانية لضمان تكيفه مع التحديات المستقبلية. وفي الختام اسمحوا لي أن أجدد الشكر لكافة الأطراف التي شاركت في إعداد الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
حضورنا الكريم، يسعدني الترحيب بكم مجددا في القسم الثاني من فعاليات حفلنا لهذا اليوم. السيدات والسادة، إن ضمان حماية البيانات والمعلومات الحساسة من التهديدات والحوادث السيبرانية يتطلب سن قوانين صارمة وفرض عقوبات على المجرمين السيبرانيين. ولتسليط الضوء على هذا الجانب ندعو المهندس ماجد بن محمد السليطي، مدير إدارة الإستجابة للحوادث السيبرانية بالوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني، والذي سيدير الجلسة النقاشية مع عدد من المختصين في هذا الشأن.
السلام عليكم. تهدف هذه الحلقة النقاشية إلى إبراز الدور الهام والمشترك بين الجهات المستجيبة وجهات إنفاذ القانون للحد من الجريمة السيبرانية. بنتطرق لعدة محاور. المحور الأول بنتكلم عن الأدوار والمسؤوليات لهذه الجهات، وأيضا ننتقل للمحور الثاني اللي هو يتكلم عن مفاهيم حول الحادثة والجريمة السيبرانية. ثم بتكون في توصيات عامة من ممثلين هذه الجهات الموقرة إلى السادة الحضور. نبدأ بالترحيب بضيفنا الأول، ممثل النيابة العامة الأستاذ ظافر سالم القحطاني، وكيل النيابة بنيابة الجرائم الإلكترونية. يعمل الأستاذ ظافر بالنيابة العامة من سنة 2015، حيث بدأ في نيابة الريان لمدة 8 سنوات، ومن خلالها عمل على العديد من عدد من قضايا الجرائم مختلفة، وثم انتقل إلى نيابة الجرائم الإلكترونية، عمل على قضايا تتعلق بالجريمة الإلكترونية إلى يومنا هذا. نشكرك. أيضا نرحب بضيفنا الثاني، ممثل منظمة الانتربول، النقيب مهندس إبراهيم آل محمود، مدير المكتب الإقليمي لعمليات الجريمة السيبرانية للشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا. عمل النقيب إبراهيم في غرفة العمليات المركزية في مركز الأمن الإلكتروني في وزارة الداخلية، ثم التحق بالوكالة الوطنية كضابط منتدب مديرا لإدارة التعاون الدولي، ثم إلى مدير المكتب الإقليمي لعمليات الجريمة السيبرانية للشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا بالمنطقة. أشكرك. نرحب بممثل إدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية وزارة الداخلية، النقيب فهد الشهراني، ضابط مكافحة الجرائم الإلكترونية. عمل النقيب فهد ل 15 سنة في مجال جمع الاستدلالات فيما يخص الجرائم الإلكترونية، وتضمنت المشاركة في عدة عمليات إقليمية بالتعاون مع فريق بالتعاون مع منظمة انتربول، وهو محقق دولي معتمد في قضايا استغلال الأطفال، وعضو في فريق الاستجابة للحوادث السيبرانية، وعضو في فريق التوعية بمخاطر الجرائم الإلكترونية. شكرا لحضورك. ممثل الوكالة الوطنية نرحب فيه السيد حسن الكواري رئيس قسم معالجة الحوادث السيبرانية. فليتفضل. عمل في قسم العمليات أيضا بوزارة الداخلية، وثم انتقل إلى فريق الاستجابة، ويشغل حاليا السيد حسن منصب رئيس قسم معالجة الحوادث السيبرانية. تطرق بداية في المحور الأول اللي هو محور الأدوار والمسؤوليات. بحكم الخبرة الطويلة أستاذ ضار، نبدأ تعريف دور النيابة العامة في الجرائم السيبرانية. لو تفضل أستاذ الطلوع.
طبعا تتولى النيابة العامة مسؤولية التفتيش في هذه الجرائم الإلكترونية ومحاسبة مرتكبيها، ويشمل ذلك الجرائم التي ترتكب عبر الشبكات المعلوماتية أو وسائل تقنية المعلومات. وهناك عدة أمثلة على تلك الجرائم. أولاً جريمة الاختراق تحت الشبكات المعلوماتية أو وسائل تقنية المعلومات لإحدى جهات الدولة أو مؤسساتها أو هيئاتها. ثانياً الاحتيال، بما في ذلك التصيد الاحتيالي وسرقة البيانات الشخصية من المستخدمين. ثالثاً الابتزاز والتهديد، بما في ذلك التهديد بنشر معلومات شخصية أو مسيئة. رابعاً نشر المعلومات الكاذبة، بما في ذلك نشر الأخبار الكاذبة أو الشائعات عبر برامج التواصل الاجتماعي. خامساً انتهاك حقوق الملكية الفكرية، بما في ذلك نشر أو توزيع المعلومات بحقوق الطبع والنشر بشكل غير قانوني. وكذلك تعمل النيابة العامة على تلقي البلاغات عن الجرائم الإلكترونية والتحقيق فيها وجمع الأدلة، وما في ذلك الاستجواب وتوجيه الاتهام إلى مرتكبي تلك الجرائم وتطبيق المواقف ضدهم بناء على قانون رقم 14 لسنة 2014 بإصدار قانون مكافحة الجرائم الإلكترونية. من العلم أن النيابة العامة تقوم بالتوعية بمخاطر الجرائم الإلكترونية وتقديم النصائح والإرشادات للجمهور حول كيفية حماية أنفسهم وكذلك حماية بياناتهم الشخصية من هذه الجرائم. كما أنشأت النيابة العامة نيابة متخصصة وهي نيابة الجرائم الإلكترونية، يتولى التحقيق في هذه الجريمة ومحاسبة مرتكبيها كذلك. وتتعاون نيابة الجرائم الإلكترونية مع إدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية والجهات المالية للحد من هذه الجريمة.
شكرا أستاذ ظاهر. ودنا نعرف أكثر عن التعاون المشترك بين الجهات المستجيبة وخصوصاً في الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث. أستاذ حسن، لو توضح لنا ما هو الدور المشترك بين الوكالة الوطنية وشركائها من الجهات المستجيبة في الإطار الوطني لإدارة الحوادث، وما هو دور الوكالة في التصدي للحوادث السيبرانية؟
طبعا يأتي دور الوكالة مع شركائها في مرحلة الاستجابة والتحقيق. وطبعا تكون المرحلة هذه من الاستجابة، التحليلات الفنية، الاحتواء، وأيضا التحقيقات الجنائية. أما دور الوكالة الفعلي هو يبدأ مرحلة الاستجابة والتحليل الفني من خلال جمع البيانات للجهة المتضررة بهدف إعطاء الإرشادات المباشرة، وأيضاً بهدف طبعاً مشاركة التقارير هذه مع شركاء في هذا القانون لدعمهم في التحقيقات الجنائية، ومشاركتها أيضاً مع الجهات المتضررة بهدف احتواء الحادثة والسيطرة عليها. وكما تقوم الوكالة أيضاً بتقييم الحوادث وتصنيفها مثل ما ذكرت في بداية الحفل. التصنيفات اللي عندنا تبتدي من اللون الأحمر إلى اللون الأبيض، فيتم تصنيف الحادثة وبناء عليها يتم التماشي مع الإجراءات. عندنا بعد في الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني من ضمن عملياتها اليومية هناك يعني تحليلات استباقية للتهديدات السيبرانية، وما قد يؤدي إلى وقوع حوادث سيبرانية يتم العمل عليها. وعندنا بعد غرفة العمليات المركزية الوطنية تقوم بمراقبة أنظمة وشبكات الدولة لرصد أي اختراق مثلا.
قد تكون هناك بعض الإجراءات تكون مرتبطة بالاحتواء وأيضا تقديم إرشادات لجهات إرشادات تعافي واستعادة الأنظمة، وقد تكون تأثر ممكن على سير عمل التحقيق الجنائي أو الإجراءات الجنائية. فننتقل للنقيب فهد، لو توضح لنا ما هو دور وزارة الداخلية وخصوصا إدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية للاستجابة للجرائم السيبرانية؟
نعم، بناء على قانون مكافحة الجرائم الإلكترونية رقم 14 لسنة 2014، فإن وزارة الداخلية ممثلة بإدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية تعتبر هي الجهة المختصة لتنفيذ اختصاصاتها فيما يتعلق بهذا القانون. وعليه فإن إدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية تقوم باستقبال الشكاوي والبلاغات المتعلقة بمختلف أنواع الجرائم السيبرانية، سواء كانت من أفراد أو شركات ومؤسسات وجهات حكومية أو شبه حكومية، بالإضافة إلى البلاغات الواردة من زملائنا في الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني. وفيما يتعلق بجرائم التعدي، تحديدا جرائم التعدي على الأنظمة والاختراقات، فإن دور الإدارة يتمثل بالاستجابة لهذه البلاغات في حال كانت واردة مباشرة من الجهة المتضررة، فإنه يتم إجراء اللازم نحو تأمين مسرح الجريمة بضمان الحفاظ على البيانات والأدلة اللازمة لتحليل الواقع، والوصول إلى ما يحدد هوية مرتكب الجريمة، ويتم فحص وتحليل المعطيات المتوفرة للحادثة وإعطاء تقرير فني بالنتائج التي يتم التوصل إليها، مع الحرص على تحديد أوجه القصور المتسببة أو التي تم استغلالها من قبل المجرم، بالإضافة إلى المؤشرات الدالة على هوية مرتكب الجريمة أو الدولة التي نشأ منها الوجود. ويتم في ذات الوقت اختار الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني بالحادثة في حال كانت الجهة المتضررة جهة حكومية أو شبه حكومية أو شركة تابعة لها، ويتم اختار الوكالة وذلك لتتخذ إجراءاتها من ناحية تخطيط الحادثة كما ذكر زميلي، واتخاذ الإجراءات المصاحبة لمختلف التصنيفات. ويتم التنسيق مع الوكالة، أيضا يتم التنسيق مع الوكالة في نفس الوقت في وقت الاستجابة للحادثة للتوجه لمقام الجهة المتضررة، ويكون دورنا بالإشراف على مسرح الجريمة، على تأمين عملية الدخول والخروج من مسرح الجريمة والأشخاص المصرح لهم بالتواجد في مقام الجهة المتضررة، وذلك لضمان توثيق الإجراءات المتعلقة بجمع الأدلة وفحصها وضمان عدم وجود ما قد يتسبب بتلف أو ضرر للأدلة. وبعد ذلك يتم استكمال الإجراءات التي نختص بها من ناحية قانونية، من ناحية محاولة تحديد المرتكبين للحادثة والوصول إلى بيانات حقيقية قد تدل على هويتهم والدولة التي نشأ منها الهجوم، وبالتالي استكمال إجراءاتنا القانونية محاولة لتقديم مرتكبي الجريمة للعدالة.
أشكرك نقيب فهد على توضيح الدور المحلي بين الشركاء الاستجابة. بس مثل ما نعرف أن غالبا الجرائم السيبرانية والحوادث السيبرانية تكون عابرة للحدود، فودنا نتطرق لدور التعاون الدولي، الدور الهام في هذا الموضوع، دور التعاون الدولي من ناحية ملاحقة أو دعم جهات إنفاذ القانون المحلية في ملاحقة الجناح، وأيضا الدور في أغلب الأحيان يدعم تقديم الإرشادات التعاون. ففي سياق الحوار عن التعاون الدولي، ما هو ننتقل لممثل منظمة انتربول النقيب إبراهيم، في سياق الحوار عن التعاون الدولي ما هو الدور الهام الذي تقوم به منظمة انتربول في معالجة الحوادث السيبرانية؟
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. قبل لا أرد على سؤالك ماجد، وبالنيابة عن السيد نيل مدير مديرية الانتربول الجريمة السيبرانية والحاضر معنا اليوم، نتقدم بالشكر الجزيل للوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني على دعوتها الكريمة للانتربول للحضور والمشاركة في هذا الحفل والنجاح. نتمنى لكم كل التوفيق إن شاء الله. وبشأن سؤالك ماجد، بجاوبك بشكل عام عن دور المنظمة وبشكل خاص عن دور مديرية الانتربول للجريمة السيبرانية. طبعا مثلكم عارف ومثل ما تطرقت أبو محمد أن من الصعب الحصول على إحصائيات دقيقة بشأن الجرائم السيبرانية إذا كانت هذه الإحصائيات تستهدف الإقليم الدولي. على الرغم من ذلك إلا أن من المعترف به أن الجريمة السيبرانية بطبعها عابرة للحدود الوطنية، واللي يخليها معقدة مقارنة بباقي الجرائم. كذلك بناء على التقرير الأخير للإنتربول المعني باتجاهات الجريمة، أكثر ما اعتبرته الدول الأعضاء تهديد خطير أو خطير للغاية هو الجريمة السيبرانية، والمتمثلة بالرانسوموير والفيشنج والأونلاين سكامز. الشاهد من اللي أنا ذكرته أو المغزى أن الإخوان الله يحفظهم تطرقوا لأدوار جدا مهمة ورئيسية، وفي دور لابد منه لتمكين هذه الجريمة العابرة للحدود اللي هو التعاون الدولي. وهنا يجي دور الانتربول وأهميته. فدور الانتربول بشكل جدا مختصر هو تعزيز التعاون بين أجهزة الشرطة الجنائية، وبناء على الكونستيتيوشن اللي هو الدستور المعتمد بالانتربول عام 1956 في فيينا. فاحنا عندنا 196 دولة عضو ونقطة اتصال رسمية في كل هذه الدول، وجميعهم مربوطين بشبكة مؤمنة نسميها الاي 24/7، ويتم ايضا تبادل ومعاملة المعلومات وفق أنظمة معتمدة. وبشكل خاص بالنسبة لدور مديرية الانتربول للجريمة السيبرانية، فقامت مديرية الانتربول للجريمة السيبرانية باعتماد النهج الإقليمي العملياتي بدعم الدول الأعضاء البالغ عددهم 196 دولة. في طبعا مثلكم عارف أن الجريمة السيبرانية تختلف بين الأقاليم، فلمعالجة هذا الشأن وكذلك لتعزيز فرص التعاون تم إطلاق المكتب الإقليمي لعمليات الجريمة السيبرانية للشرق الأوسط وشمال أفريقيا. فإيش دور المكتب؟ دور المكتب بشكل جدا مختصر هو تعزيز قدرة المنطقة على منع الجريمة السيبرانية واكتشافها والتحقيق فيها وتعطيلها من خلال تقديم عدد من الخدمات، لعل أبرزها أول خدمة احنا الله يسلمك ننسق عمليات دولية مشتركة تستهدف التهديدات سواء كانت الناشئة أو التهديدات الإقليمية. 2، نعزز هذه العمليات اللي ننسقها بتقارير استخباراتية، نسهل عمل التحقيق للإخوان. 3 اللي هو الكاباسيتي بيلدينج، بناء وتطوير القدرات سواء كان من تنظيمنا التمرين السيبراني أو غيره من التمارين. فتسأل أبو محمد عن دور الانتربول، نعم دور الانتربول جدا مهم بسبب انتشاره العالمي، توفيره المنصات آمنة لتبادل المعلومات وتقديم أيضا خدمات، وكل ذلك لمحاربة هذه الجريمة العابرة للحدود وتمكين التعاون.
نشكر الضيوف على توضيحهم في المحور الأول لواجهاتهم الموقرة. غالبا ما تختلط المفاهيم بين الحوادث والجرائم السيبرانية، فننتقل للمحور الثاني من الأسئلة لتوضيح هذه المفاهيم. السيد حسن، لو توضح للسادة الحضور ما هو مفهوم الحوادث أو الاختراقات السيبرانية؟
طبعا الحوادث السيبرانية هو أي نشاط غير مصرح يستهدف الأنظمة والشبكات الرقمية للجهات بهدف سرقة البيانات، منع الوصول، تشفير البيانات واختراقها. عندنا بعد تشمل الحوادث والهجمات مختلفة، عندنا مثل هجمات تصيد البريد، تصيد البريد الإلكتروني الاحتيالي، عندنا هجمات حجب الخدمة اللي هي ديدوس، عندنا بعد هجمات الرانسوموير. هذه هي أنواع هجمات ممكن أنها تسبب حوادث إلكترونية. طبعا يؤثر أي اختراق على أحد العناصر اللي بذكرها لكم اللي هي عناصر CIA اللي تتكون من السرية، وهي حماية المعلومات من الوصول غير المصرح به. وعندنا العنصر الثاني وهو السلامة، وهي طبعا ضمان عدم تعديل البيانات والتلاعب بها دون إذن. عندنا طبعا العنصر الثالث والتوافر اللي هو ضمان استمرارية الوصول إلى المعلومات دون انقطاع. أمثلة طبعا على الحوادث أو الهجمات اللي ممكن تأثر على هذه العناصر، أو ممكن أنها تنتهك واحد من العناصر اللي ذكرتها لكم بالسابق. ونبتدي بالعنصر الأول اللي هو انتهاك السرية، وكيف ممكن أنه يصير؟ ممكن أن يتم انتهاك السرية من خلال اختراق قاعدة بيانات، على سبيل المثال تحتوي على معلومات حساسة، تحتوي على سجلات طبية. فمن الممكن يعني أن الأنواع من الهجمات هذه اللي يأثر على سرية هذه البيانات يأثر طبعا على المرضى ويأثر على اللي ممكن يتضررون منه. عندنا بعد النوع من الهجمات اللي ممكن انه ياثر على عنصر السريه، هي الهجمات الاحتياليه والتصعيد اللي ممكن من خلالها تخدع المستخدمين بانهم يوفرون معلومات سريه المفروض انها ما تطلع. عندنا العنصر الثاني طبعا اللي هو عنصر السلامه، والهجمات اللي ممكن تاثر على عنصر السلامه. ممكن المفترض يدخل على نظام يتلاعب بالسجلات، يتلاعب بالانظمه، فممكن يتم انتهاك العنصر هذا من خلال الهجمات اللي ذكرتها لكم. وعندنا طبعا اخر عنصر اللي هو عنصر التوافر، ومن الهجمات اللي ممكن تنتهك هذا العنصر اللي هي هجمات حجم الخدمه الديوس. ممكن انها تاثر على هذا العنصر وتؤدي الى انتهاك التوافر لهذه الهجمه. وبشكل مختصر اي عنصر يتم اختراقه او انتهاكه فاحنا نعتبره حادثه سيبرانيه او اختراق سيبراني.
نقيب فهد، ما هو مفهوم الجريمه السيبرانيه؟
نعم، القانون عرف الجريمه الالكترونيه بانها اي فعل يتم باستخدام وسيله من وسائل تقنيه المعلومات بطريقه غير مشروعه بما يخالف احكام القانون. فواحدة من الأفعال هذه الغير مشروعة هي التعدي على الأنظمة والاختراقات، والقانون وضحها بأنها الدخول الغير مصرح به على موقع أو نظام إلكتروني تابع لأحد أجهزة الدولة أو مؤسساتها أو الشركات الخاصة أو أي من المواقع الإلكترونية الخاصة حتى لو للأفراد. وبعد ما يتم الدخول غير مصرح فيه، سواء كان تم الدخول غير مصرح فيه او تجاوز الدخول بالبقاء في هذا النظام وتسبب بتسريب بيانات او تلف او تعطيل لهذه الانظمه، فهذه تندرج تحت فعل التعدي على الانظمه والاختراقات، وبالتالي نص عليها عقوبه بالحبس والغرامه.
تشابه هذه المفاهيم قد تؤدي الى حدوث لبس عند موظفين جهات الدوله اثناء عمليه تبليغ الحوادث السيبرانيه. فهل باعتقادك هذا الشيء ممكن يسبب لبس؟
صحيح، قد يكون هناك لبس من ناحيه عدم معرفه الجهه المتضرره بالجهه اللي يجب عليها تقديم البلاغ لها. لكن احنا في اداره مكافحه الجرائم الالكترونيه نسعى دائما مع زملائنا في الوكاله ان شاء الله بان نوضح هذه الصوره لجهات الدوله ومؤسساتها. فان كما ذكر ممثل الوكاله فان دور الوكاله هو العمل على احتواء الحادثه والسيطره عليها والعمل على استعاده الانظمه وضمان سير العمل. فيما يتمحور دور اداره مكافحه الجرائم الالكترونيه حول اتخاذ الاجراءات القانونيه اللازمه للوصول لمرتكبي الحادثه وتقديمهم للعداله الجنائيه مثل ما ذكرنا. ونحن نحرص مع زملائنا في الوكاله باشعار بعضنا البعض في حال ان تم ابلاغ الوكاله بحادثه قبل لا يتم ابلاغنا او تم ابلاغنا ولم يتم ابلاغ الوكاله. فهناك اجراءات واليات تتبع بيننا وبين الوكاله بشان تبادل المعلومات بخصوص الحوادث، وايضا يتم اجراء حسب الاليه المتبعه بين اداره مكافحه الجرائم الاقتصاديه والوكاله الوطنيه السيبراني من ناحيه الاستجابه للحادث. فيتم تنسيق مستمر. فنحن نؤكد للجميع انه سيتم الاجراء اللازم في حال تم التبليغ لإدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية أو الوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني، ولكن دائما ننصح بأن يتم الإبلاغ للجهتين، سواء خاصة أن القانون ألزم جهات الدولة ومؤسساتها والجهات الحكومية بضرورة سرعة الإبلاغ عن أي حادثة سيبرانية للجهة المختصة، وبالتالي هي الجهة المختصة لإدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية.
ننتقل للجانب القانوني من هذا الامر. استاذ بابر، لو توضح لنا كيف وبناء على ماذا تصنف الجرح والجنايات في الجريمه السيبرانيه؟
طبعا تصنف الجرائم الإلكترونية لجنح جنايات على عدة عوامل منها. أولا هي طبيعة الجريمة. بعض الجرائم الإلكترونية تعتبر طبيعتها أكثر خطورة من غيرها. على سبيل المثال جريمة اختراق نظام حاسوبي حكومي أو بنكي تعتبر أكثر خطورة من جريمة التشهير عبر وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، جريمة التشهير. أما ثانياً الأضرار الناتجة عن الجريمة، كلما زادت الأضرار المادية والمعنوية التي تسببت فيها الجريمة زادت احتمالية تصنيفها كجناية. بعض المواد من قانون الجرائم الإلكترونية تكون مادة واحدة فقط، فترة أولى تكون جنحة، الفترة الثانية تضاعف العقوبة فيها مع أنها متقاربة في نفس النص القانوني. أما بالنسبة للثالثا هو القصد الجنائي. طبعا إذا كان القصد الجنائي لمرتكب الجريمة هو الحق ضرر كبير بالمستفيدين أو المستخدمين لإحدى الشبكات المعلوماتية أو وسائل تقنية المعلومات. على سبيل المثال إذا قام شخص باختراق نظام حاسوبي هدف تعطيله أو تدميره فمن المرجح أن تصنف كجناية. أما رابعا تكرار الجريمة، بمعنى إذا كان مرتكب الجريمة قد ارتكب جرائم إلكترونية أخرى في السابق فمن المرجح تصنف الجريمة كجناية حتى لو كانت في السابق في حال ارتكابها كجنحة في المرة الأولى. وهناك عدة أمثلة على الجرائم الإلكترونية. طبعا بالنسبة للجنح هي أولاً التشهير عبر وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي، ثانياً الدخول غير مصرح به لنظام حاسوبي، ثالثاً جريمة اللي هو التهديد والابتزاز عبر وسائل التواصل الاجتماعي. بالنسبة للجنايات اختراق أنظمة حاسوبية إن كانت حكومية أو بنكية فهذه تعتبر جناية من الأشد. ثانياً نشر برامج ضارة لإحدى المواقع الإلكترونية. رابعاً وهي جريمة الاستيلاء على أموال البنوك خاصة عن طريق الصرف الآلي والأمور، هذه تعتبر جناية كذلك، لكن ليس على ضوء نفس المادة اللي مجرما بناء على قانون رقم 14 سنة بعض الجرائم الإلكترونية يدخل فيها بعض القوانين الخاصة بقانون العقوبات الوطني. وهذه الجرائم اللي خاصة بالجنح والجنايات بشكل عام.
أشكركم ضيوفنا توضيح هذه المفاهيم العامة. ننتقل للمحور الثالث من التوصيات. نقيب فهد، ما هي النصائح العامة اللي تقدمها للجهات التي تواجه التحديات في الحفاظ على الأدلة في الجرائم، خاصة في ظل الحاجة إلى احتواء الحادثة بسرعة، واللي قد تسبب في بعض الأحيان إذا ما تم احتواء هذه الحادثة قد تسبب إلى ضرر أكبر أو تؤثر على استمرارية الأعمال. فما هي النصائح العامة؟
صحيح، مثل ما ذكرت بعض الإجراءات اللي تتخذها الجهة قد تؤثر على الأدلة ومجريات التحقيق فيها. فنحن ننصح دائما بأن يتم اتباع أفضل الممارسات من ناحية التوثيق وحفظ الأدلة بطريقة سليمة تساعد في التحقيقات والاستجابة للحوادث. منها عزل الأنظمة المتأثرة لمنع انتشار الهجوم ولكن دون إيقافها، لأن ذلك قد يؤدي إلى فقدان الأدلة المهمة مثل البيانات المخزنة في الذاكرة وغيرها، والتي من شأنها أن تساهم بشكل كبير بفهم حيثيات الهجوم. وكما ذكرت من المهم أيضا توثيق جميع التفاصيل والإجراءات قبل انتشار الحادث كتسجيل الوقت وتاريخ انتشار الهجوم، الشخص الذي اكتشف الهجوم، مع حصر الأشخاص المسموح لهم بالتعامل مع الحادثة والأدلة والتواجد في موقع الجريمة لحين وصول فرق الاستجابة الممثلة بالوكالة أو إدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية، وذلك يتم بضمان عدم إلحاق أي ضرر الأدلة من تلف سواء كان متعمد، في بعض الحالات قد يصل إلى تلف متعمد من شخص داخل الجهة نفسها، وأحيانا قد يكون ضرر أو ضرر يحدث بشكل غير متعمد. كما ننصح دائما الجهات أن تكون لها خطة واضحة وآلية للتعامل مع الحوادث، تتم عبر تخصيص فريق مختص لضمان سير العمل وتطبيق الإجراءات التي تمت لضمان ذلك، وحفظ الأدلة لحين وصول قرار الاستجابة. يجب أن يتم ذلك من خلال فريق مختص، يكون لدى كل جهة فريق مختص للاستجابة لمثل أي حادثة طارئة تحدث للجهة. كذلك إدارة مكافحة الجرائم الاقتصادية والإلكترونية والوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني جنرال الوكالة ملتزمين دائما بهذه الإجراءات وننصح بها دائما، وذلك لتحسين استجابتنا للهجمات السيبرانية وزيادة فرص التعرف على المهاجمين، وذلك لاتخاذ تمكننا من اتخاذ الإجراءات القانونية ضده، خصوصا أن مادة 19 من قانون مكافحة الجرائم الإلكترونية حث الجهات على ضرورة اتخاذ التدابير اللازمة التي من شأنها حفظ البيانات والأدلة لحين فرض هذه الجهات المختصة.
ما مدى تأثير أستاذ ظافر، ما مدى تأثير مثل هذه الإجراءات على إمكانية ملاحقة الجناة أمام القانون؟
طبعا التوجيهات طبعا المستجيب الأول الجهات خاصة مثل هذه الأمور. طبعا الإدارات الأمنية أولا الحفاظ على مسرح الجريمة الإلكتروني تحديدا، بمعنى التحفظ على مسرح الجريمة وتأمينه بشكل فوري لمنع إفسادها والعرف بالأدلة. لأن الجريمة الإلكترونية خاصة الأدلة المهمة فيها خاصة بالنسبة للخبراء الفنيين لفحصها ثبوت كافيا للمتهم لحالته بعد ذلك إلى المحاكم محكمة وتطبيق مواد التهم ضده. أما ثانيا توثيق مسرح الجريمة الإلكتروني بعناية، وذلك بأخذ الصور والفيديوهات بشكل تفصيلي قبل تحريك أي شيء بمعنى جمع الأدلة وتحريزها بشكل صحيح للحفاظ عليها. بالنسبة للثالثة التعامل مع الشهود، أي أن تدوين أقوالهم لدى الإدارات الأمنية وفصل الشهود عن بعضهم البعض لمنع أن يكون في تضارب أقوال الشهود مع بعضها البعض. أما رابعاً التعاون مع النيابة العامة خاصة بتقديم جميع المعلومات التي تم جمعها والاستجابة السريعة لطلبات النيابة العامة والمساعدة اللازمة. طبعاً المستجيب الأول هو أولاً اتصال الإدارة الأمنية، ثانياً الحفاظ على مسرح الجريمة الإلكتروني عدم دخول أي شخص فيه، ثالثاً التعاون مع الإدارات الأمنية خاصة وتقديم أي المعلومات الكافية لهم، رابعاً في حال تدوين أقوالها كمبلغ الجريمة الإلكترونية التعاون بشكل كامل وجمع المعلومات للإدارة الأمنية، وما بعد ذلك الإجراءات تباشر النيابة العامة التحقيقات للمتهم القائم بهذا الجريمة الإلكترونية وتوجيه للتعامل المناسب له، بعد ذلك إحالته إلى المحكمة المختصة تطبيق مواد الاتهام ضده، وتمثل النيابة العامة أيضا للمجتمع والدفاع عن حقوق المدنيين عليهم لدى المحكمة المختصة.
الجانب القانوني من قيام بعض الجهات بالإجراءات الضرورية المطلوبة لاحتواء الحادثة والتي من شأنها التأثير على بعض الأدلة، ما هو لو نتكلم عن الجانب القانوني في هذا؟
نعم، من شأن تأثير الإجراءات خاصة الضرورية لاحتواء الحث على الأدلة، مع ذلك يجب أن نضع بعين الاعتبار عدة نقاط مهمة. أولا الأولوية لسلامة المجتمع بمعنى احتواء الحادثة. في بعض الحالات قد تضطر طبيعة الحادثة اتخاذ إجراءات فورية لاحتواء هذه الإجراءات تهدف إلى منع تفاقم الوضع وحماية الشبكات المعلوماتية من الضرر وتعطيل سير العمل لدى إحدى الوزارات. طبعا ثانيا بالنسبة للأدلة في مثل هذه الحالات خاصة تكون أولوية للجهات احتواء الحادث تقليل الأضرار والخسائر المحتملة، قد يؤثر ذلك على بعض الأدلة لكنه يأتي في سياق ضرورة حماية مصلحة المجتمع. ثانياً دور النيابة العامة هي الحفاظ على الأدلة، بمعنى أن النيابة العامة هي الجهة المسؤولة عن الحفاظ على الأدلة وجمعها بشكل قانوني يجب على الجهات التي تتخذ إجراءات لاحتواء الحادثة أن تتعاون مع النيابة العامة وتوثق الإجراءات المتخذة وأي تأثير لها على الأدلة. ثالثاً الموازنة بين الاعتبارات وهي الأخيرة بمعنى الضرورة والضرر. يجب أن يكون هنالك توازن بين ضرورة اتخاذ إجراءات معينة لاحتواء الحادثة أو الضرر الذي قد يلحق بالأدلة. وفي الختام أتفهم أنا بشأن تأثير الإجراءات على الأدلة، ومع ذلك يجب النظر بعين الاعتبار أن احتواء الحدث قد يكون ضروريا في بعض الحالات لحماية مصلحة المجتمع.
ننتقل للنقيب إبراهيم. كيف يساعد التعاون المشترك بين الدول في عملية إدارة الحوادث السيبرانية والتقليل من المخاطر والتصدي لها؟
بشكل جدا مختصر ماجد، وكمثال حي على تعاون مشترك تم من خلاله تقليل المخاطر والتصدي لها وإدارة الحوادث بشكل فعال. عملية سرنجيتي هذه عملية سيبرانية دولية مشتركة تم تنسيقها من قبل الانتربول وبالتعاون مع أجهزة إنفاذ القانون. مثل ما ذكرت لكم في السابق، احنا كل عملية سيبرانية دولية ننسقها تستهدف تهديد، فالتهديف المستهدف من هذه العملية هم المجرمين اللي يتسببون ببرامج انتزاعات الفدية والابتزاز والاختراق على البريد الإلكتروني للأعمال والاحتيال عبر الإنترنت. إيش ناتج التعاون؟ تم من خلال تنسيقنا لهذه العملية ودعمها 65 تقرير استخباراتي. أول شيء اعتقال 1006 مشتبه به. 2 تعطيل 135,000 شبكة مشبوهة في العالم كله. 3 تم التعرف على 35,000 فيكتم، وارتبطت هذه الحالات بخسائر تقدر بنحو 193 مليون دولار في العالم كله، وتم استرداد 44 مليون دولار من هالخسائر. فتسأل أبو محمد عن التعاون، هاي ناتج التعاون.
شكركم على هذه التوصيات الهامة. طبعا وصلنا لخاتمة الجلسة النقاشية. نشكر الضيوف على إثراءهم وتوضيحهم لدور الجهات المستجيبة، ونشكرهم على التوصيات القيمة لجهات الدولة الحيوية لتحقيق استجابة فعالة ومتكاملة، ونشكر السادة الحضور على حسن الاستماع.
الحضور الكريم، يسرني أن أدعو السيدة هلا سلمان آل عبد الغني من إدارة التعاون الدولي بالوكالة الوطنية للأمن السيبراني للتفضل على المسرح لإدارة جلسة نقاشية حول دور فرق الاستجابة لطوارئ الحاسب الآلي في إدارة الحوادث السيبرانية والتعامل معها.
Good morning, everyone. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Hela Al-Abdullani, and I'm from the International Cooperation Department at the National Cybersecurity Agency. It brings me great pleasure to be moderating this panel session on the significance of CSIRTs and CERTs in collaborative national cybersecurity incident management. And in this panel session, topics related to cybersecurity emergency and incident response teams will be discussed, along with the role of sectoral CERTs and corporate CSIRTs in collaboration with the National Cybersecurity Incident Response. Before we delve into the actual discussion, as I'm sure we're all eager to know more about the topic, please join me in welcoming our distinguished panelists for this session. Dr. Haydar Abbas is the General Director of Pakistan CERT and the renowned cybersecurity expert, researcher, and consultant. He has received several awards, including the Medal of Excellence, and holds a master's degree and a PhD in information security. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Aziza Rashdi is the Assistant General Director at Oman's National CERTS at the Ministry of Transport, Communication and Information Technology. She is also the founder of the Cybersecurity Forum for Omani Women, a voluntary initiative aiming at empowering women in cybersecurity. It's a pleasure to have her. Mr. Khalid Al-Hashmi is the Director of the National Cyber Enablement and Excellence Affairs at the National Cybersecurity Agency in Qatar. His responsibilities include enabling national-level cybersecurity initiatives and projects, as well as innovation, research, development and training, and awareness programs. Mr. Chris Gibson, CEO and Executive Director of the Forum of Incident Response and Security Teams, better known as FIRST. Chris has worked in the private sector at a global level, in the public sector leading CERT UK, and now works to bring together teams to make the internet a safer place. And last but definitely not least, Mr. Mohammed Al-Hajri is the head of cyber defense at Qatar Central Bank, with over 8 years of experience working in a security operations center, specializing in memory forensics, forensic analysis, incident response, and threat hunting. Thank you all for being here. It is an absolute pleasure being here with you, discussing an extremely important topic and being able to view it from various perspectives. And without further ado, the first part of this session covers the role of CERTs. And so, my first question goes to Dr. Haidar. In your opinion, having a newly established CERTs team, what role can various CERTs, government agencies, regulators, and the private sector play in supporting the national CERT to strengthen an integrated cybersecurity response?
Hello. All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. First of all, just allow me to really congratulate the National Cybersecurity Agency of Qatar for launching this incident management framework. I believe that this will be equally beneficial for the GCC countries, also for Pakistan and other countries. So coming towards the coordination, the first part I would like to mention the national CERT is the kind of coordinating body for the incident response within the country. So they should have a kind of mandate, and they have the mandate in Pakistan and all the countries also. Actually, So in Pakistan, mainly this is the newly established initiative by the government of Pakistan. Before this, many organizations were working in silos. So the first foremost objective of the national CERT is to coordinate with all the bodies in kind of threat intelligence kind of mechanism that they do. They can issue the advisories to all the sectoral CERT and all the organizational CERT in the country. Also, they can issue the incident management guidelines. While in the second tier, you would see there are many sectoral CERTs that are the energy sector CERT, the banking sector CERT, telecom CERT, critical infrastructure CERT. So these CERTs are actually managing their threat intelligence at the sector-specific level. Also, they are, if there is some kind of incident and they need some kind of threat intelligence, they have done up to their extent, and they want some kind of escalation at the national level, so they can coordinate with the national level also. On the other hand, there are some kind of government agencies or the government organization, and the main role could be that they should be dealing with the policy matters of the cybersecurity. They should be dealing with the regulatory matters in cybersecurity. Also, they should have kind of understanding that cybersecurity not only is an organizational issue, but it's a national level issue, the national security. So they should have incorporated the cybersecurity aspect in the national security framework of that specific country. This is something that is also going on in Pakistan also. On the other hand, the private sector organization has the more need, right? We are engaging the private sector in the context that we are allowing them to actually help national CERT and the government in terms of compliance of this national cybersecurity policy of Pakistan, in terms of cybersecurity controls in different organizations. Also in terms of capacity building with different organizations, because
We have a kind of huge infrastructure in Pakistan. Many organizations are very well prepared in terms of cybersecurity, while others are, you can say, it's ranked 2 or 3 out of 10. They're not well prepared. So the capacity building, the training, and these things are very important, and the private sector can join hands in this context. So this is how a comprehensive ecosystem where all the stakeholders of all the countries, organizations can join hands and work collectively for the collective wisdom to deal with our ecosystem within the country, as well as to coordinate with the different international organizations to kind of threat intelligence kind of mechanism, kind of joint capacity building, joint exercises, and these kind of stuff.
Thank you, Dr. Haider, for your valuable insights. Ms. Aziza, would you like to build upon that?
Thank you very much, and first of all, congratulations on the revision of the national framework. Back to your question, I would like to highlight the role of the regulators. I think regulators play a critical role in supporting national search at different levels. Through their authority, they can provide an environment where national search can operate effectively and collaborate within the different sectors at different levels. One of the ways that I believe regulators can play is to develop or establish regulatory framework which define the authority of the search and the scope of work that they should work on and their operation. The other way, or the other important element of the regulator is to establish a development of cybersecurity frameworks and regulations and policies. I would like to highlight the case of Oman. We have the Ministry of Transport and Communication and Information Technology. It's the authority that is responsible to develop cybersecurity frameworks in coordination with different security agencies. We have the cybercrime law that was launched in 2011, followed by data protection law in 2023. It's a recent law. And in between, there are different frameworks and policies and guidelines that were issued and circulated to all different government agencies. And the role of the ministry is to ensure that each ministry or government unit is complying with these policies and procedures. One of these policies and procedures is the incident management policy. To make sure that they are tested, these policies, and there is a compliance program that is run by the Ministry of Transport on an annual basis, ensuring that there is a complete compliance. This compliance program is done into two phases. Virtual phase, which is the self-assessment, a checklist that is sent to all the ministries to ensure that they validate the requirement, and later on a physical audit that is done on site to ensure that there is a compliance with this policies and procedure. I think another important role that regulator can play is in the role of capacity building. We all know that there is a huge shortage in cybersecurity professionals, not at the national level, but it's a global issue. And as per some reports, the world requires 4.5 cybersecurity professionals by 2030, which is a huge number. And currently there is a big gap. So I think the regulator can play a big role in funding cybersecurity development programs and also establish some educational program that starts in coordination with ministries or Ministry of Education, especially to include cybersecurity curriculums at the early stage, and later on to work with Ministry of Higher Education to have more specialized cybersecurity degrees at different universities and colleges. So there is a huge role that the regulator can play, and it's all a joint effort between the regulator and also the national state.
Thank you, Ms. Aziza. It was interesting to see your view on how regulators can support search teams. Mr. Khalid, since NCSA represents the National Search of Qatar, in your view, what role can critical national organizations, or CNOs, play in supporting the national search in securing the cyberspace of the country? And what should be done to develop CNO cybersecurity capabilities in Qatar?
So, yes, thank you for hosting me in this panel. And I would like to congratulate to my colleagues here and the entities for launching this incident management framework. Actually, all entities that are critical and considered them a critical part of the organizations was supported in cybersecurity. So if we look into, because actually they are the main and affecting the stability of Qatar cybersecurity in terms of economics and social. So I will focus on some some areas like where agencies is working with the support and enhancing and saving the cyber security space of Qatar. So if we focus on details, it's joint efforts between both sides as a regulator and the regulator as a CERT and on the other hand the entities. So I believe in terms of having strategic threat intelligence between sectors and the entities belong to these those sectors, it will help the CERT to focus on the other area and focus on national overview, since we have a sectorial team or sectorial regulator who are working on sector basis. On the other hand, also another part of that, I believe the operational convergence and incident response. So by building a team, task force team for the cybersecurity, who can work and respond to the incident with the support of the CERT and the entities and the sectorial regulator. In this way, we will get joint knowledge, joint experience from both sides, attending and trying to secure and response and mitigate the issues of the case. Another area I would also to mention here, part of the joint efforts, is related to resilience testing and enforcing the standards. So by having two levels, so we will have a chance to enforce and follow up the applying and adopting policies, frameworks that issued by NCSA. So this also a good area. I believe it could help in differentiating when we differentiate the rules of the CERT and having the exact responsibilities based on the standard, based on the mandate, based on the agreement and framework having between both sides.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid, for clarifying those differences. Now, moving on to the financial sector, Mr. Mohammed, can you provide us with what role you believe sectoral CERTs play in proactive and reactive cybersecurity, both within their sectors and as a whole, in collaboration with the national CERT to support the national cybersecurity response?
Assalamu alaikum. I want to also congratulate on the release of the framework. Sectoral CERTs, they play a crucial role in proactive and reactive cybersecurity, ensuring specific controls for their sector and prepared for and capable of responding to cyber threats across the sector. PCB, specifically Qatar Central Bank, we collaborate in close coordination with our constituents as well as with the NCSA, and to build on the specifics for proactive and reactive. Proactively, CERTs monitor threats unique to the sector, ensuring intelligence, providing risk analysis for the sector, and implementing security best practices related to their sector. Building on what Mr. Rashid was saying, as a regulator, PCB specifically for the financial sector, for example, we have unique security controls or unique security tools for payment processing, for all of these specific security controls related to payment card information that might not be relevant for a national level, but it's very relevant and very important to us on a sectoral level. So a sectoral cert allows us to proactively create the security controls and ensure this security best practices for that information on a sector level, while also adhering to regulations on a national level in close coordination with the NCSA. And reactively, sectoral level certs, it allows us to assist and support the entities that are the first responders in any of the incidents, providing them the support that they need to be able to help contain the incident, while also providing relevant threat intelligence and national level data to our counterparts at the NCSA.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. That is really interesting to see how NCSA and QCD can cooperate in that field. Mr. Chris, having transitioned from leading the UK certs to unifying international certs teams, I believe you have a somewhat different approach than our panelists. And so based on that, can you share your thoughts on what you deem to be a structured approach that entities can adopt to enhance their cybersecurity capabilities at an organizational level, such as defining roles and responsibilities?
Certainly. First thing, good morning. I'm honoured and very grateful to be on this panel. We've covered subjects that I believe are hugely important to us as we move forward and try and build that more resilient internet that we all want. Realising that incidents will happen, either malicious or accidental, we've moved on from a world where we can defend our way out of the problem. We've now moved into an era where it's not about the incident, it's about how you prepare for that incident and how you recover from that incident. And frameworks are hugely important to that. So congratulations on the launch of this. I think it's really important and it's a really exciting thing to be part of. I think it's important to realise that certs have changed over the years. Certs were first formed, the very first cert was formed in 1990 in the US, followed by a number of certs around the world. And at that point, nobody understood that the internet was going to become what it is today. Nobody dreamt that it would become fundamental to everything we do. Government, citizens, defence, national security, civil society, global communications. That just wasn't on the agenda back then. So certs back then were very, very nascent, very tentative. They fixed problems as they arose. They started doing things almost on a best efforts basis. They liaised with each other. They started getting together. That's when FIRST was formed. We were formed to allow people to communicate. It's also important to understand that certs are not all the same. No cert is the same as another cert. We've run into this many times. When I was at a certain day, we did a certain number of things. I would talk to other certs. They had very different responsibilities, abilities, their legal capabilities versus ours. These things are very different around the world. So it's interesting and useful to work out what those structures can be, and then you can bolt in what you want to do to make sure that we all understand what we're doing. So structure is important. It gives clear delineation of roles and responsibilities so everybody knows within that cert what they're supposed to be doing. Allowing for some form of overlap and collaboration, but allowing focus to be put into the right places. They should allow the cert to scale. They should allow it to grow while still maintaining those structures and capabilities. And it also helps with integration. If I have a cyber threat intelligence unit in my cert, I want to talk to other cyber threat intelligence groups in other certs. The fact that we might follow the same structure helps us understand what each of us can do, what we're responsible for, and how we can build those relationships over time and build trust, which again, we first believe is fundamental to how we fix the internet. So when Cert UK was being built, this is early 2010, 2011, so we launched in 2014, we looked at something like 40 different things a national cert could do. This ranged everything from being the national PKI infrastructure to being actual response, going out and helping businesses, through all sorts of other options. And we decided we'd do 4. We would do national incident management, we would assist critical national infrastructure, we would help with information sharing, and we would be that focal point of contact, a national cert. And the logic for really ramping it into just 4 very specific areas was that we believed that by doing that, we could do those 4 things really well. We could build a team with knowing what our role and responsibilities were, that we could do those things very, very well, not trying to boil the ocean, not trying to do everything. Because when you try and do everything, you're going to fail somewhere. That will hurt your reputation, that will hurt your ability to report up into your ecosystem. So doing things really well is, to my mind, really important. Those structures also helped us lock in with our stakeholders to say, this is what we're going to do. We're not going to do that, we're doing these things. So they clearly understood what we were doing. We clearly understood what they wanted us to do. That made life more stable as we launched, when people weren't coming up to say, why aren't you doing this, or why aren't you doing that? We could point them at this document and say, yes, we looked at that, we decided we weren't going to do it. We might do it in the future, but right now, by sticking to these particular things that we're planning to do, we're good. Having structure allows you to do two other things. It allows you to understand the maturity of those roles and responsibilities. Are they doing well? Are they fully mature and taking feedback and learning and full proper cycle management, or are they not? So how you can assess how those things are moving. And lastly, I would say that building those frameworks allows you to then build metrics, because you're operating in a structured manner. So you can start metrics, which allows you to report up, which allows you to report out. So people can see that you're doing a good job and you're doing what you're meant to do. And I think finally, I'd argue, building those structures and roles and responsibilities allows you to move towards more automation. And that's an area that I think we would all agree is a direction of travel we need to move in. We cannot keep doing this at a human level. We need systems, we need processes. Building structure, building roles, building responsibilities, formulating that and making them very concrete allows us to move in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Chris, and to our panelists for providing us with valuable insights on the role of CERTs. Now, the second part of this session covers the cooperation and coordination relating to CERTs. And on that note, Ms. Aziza, since Oman plays a greatly significant role in the ARCC, amongst many others, what do you think should be done on the international stage between CERTs to enhance proactive cybersecurity and incident response through collaboration and cooperation?
Thank you, Mama. I think we all know that cyber incidents or cyber crimes are borderless, and no single organization or country can combat cyber threats alone. Therefore, cybersecurity cooperation is the key, not only at the regional level, but at the international level as well. From our perspective, as Oman is managing and operating the IT National Cybersecurity Center, which was launched in 2013, I believe there are some strategies and actions need to be adopted at the regional level and international level to strengthen the cooperation between the CERTs globally. One of these is to establish formal information sharing agreement. This can be a bilateral or multilateral agreement. This is important to share information not only at the incident point of view, but also at different aspects of cybersecurity within the region. The other way, or the other important element, is to participate in regional and international platforms. For example, we have the first, it's an international platform where members of countries can join and benefit from what person is offering. We have also the OIC CERT, which is the second largest organization after the United Nations, consisting of 57 countries. Members can join, or countries can join, and benefit from different programs that are run through the OIC CERT. From the ARC perspective, original center perspective, the center is providing different capacity building activities or initiatives, different roles in setting CERTs for countries which they don't have CERTs, and risk assessment for different aspects in cybersecurity. So there are platforms or activities that are done through the LCC to strengthen the role of CERTs or also the national security agencies at the regional level. I think what we need more to focus on when it comes to cyber security incidents is to conduct more cyber exercises at the regional level, because these exercises can strengthen the skills of CERTs team, and also it's a way of exploring what are the latest threats that are targeting our region. Another element or important aspect that we can focus on is establish a real-time intelligence platform where different CERTs can share different information about recent incidents, indicators of compromises, manual signatures. This will help us to know what is happening at the regional level, and also lesson learned from past incidents. It will help us to know what has been happening and what action been taken in different states. So such platform, they are really an element or a way of enhancing our incident response capabilities at the regional level. The last, I think we need to adopt common standards at the regional level. That will help us to be on the same line when it comes to information security or cybersecurity incident management or any other part or element of cybersecurity.
Thank you, Ms. Aziza. Mr. Khalid, how would you contribute to Ms. Aziza's opinion?
Well, actually, the cybersecurity incidents are across border actually. So we cannot say it's one area and the digital world and everything are interconnected. So I believe efforts are required between different organizations, locally, sales, and internationally within like abroad, which is a must now. It's not about having only in internal efforts for that. So in terms of having threat intelligence sharing, as mentioned, so it's one of the important area. If we build a platform, a technical platform for sharing that at the same time between different organizations, it could help a lot in sharing at the same time. Especially like we have different organizations such as Interpol, FIRST, and the others who are working on the cyber crimes field. So also I would mention regional research could help a lot. Like we have it in the GCC, for example, because most of the attacks are common. So based on the region, the field, and past study, so the target going to be, for example, for our region, the energy sector, as like the region are working and the it's economic first economic field we are working on. So we have to consider this, and with the cooperation between such countries and having such a cert will help a lot to avoid and mitigate the incidents. On the other hand, also last part, which is related to the cyber diplomacy. So we are hearing this word not years, but I believe it should be implemented and should be established in a way that will support all countries in terms of the different capabilities building, sharing information, skill set, and the other areas of the cyber security. So having this form and having people from different fields together on one table will help to speed up and organize and align this effort in terms of the cybersecurity globally.
Right, and speaking of collaboration and information sharing, Dr. Haider, how do you think various government entities within a country can collaborate to work on and support the national cyber incident response?
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, the ideal situation is some of the mobile phone here in this hall is malfunctioning. It should be dealt by this product. And if there is some kind of escalation needed, this model should escalate the security operation center of this model should escalate this to the sector level. That might be the Ministry of Tourism or something in Qatar. And that if that has not been done at that specific level, it could have been escalated till the national level, the National Cybersecurity Authority. That is doing a kind of comprehensive analysis of all the threat vectors internally, plus taking feeds from the internal collaborators. This is the ideal situation, right? But the situation is that many organizations in any of the countries, including might be Qatar, many organizations are well prepared, they have this kind of mechanism already deployed of all the reporting channel and all the stuff. While many of the organizations has a weak infrastructure of deployment, even they have the multiple vendors for the security solutions, the tools, and all that stuff. So this makes a kind of complex environment where there is a more challenging task that has to be dealt with the different government organizations at second tier, that is the sectoral level of organizations. So they have to prepare themselves for kind of specific regulations, specific guidelines, specific coordination mechanisms of all the organizations that they're going to deal with, and in collaboration with the escalation mechanism that has to be dealt with at the national level. While on the other hand, at the international level, there is also a kind of, say for example, there is some kind of sensitive information that needs not to be sent or could not be shared with different organizations. So there are some kind of protocols available, that information sharing restricts and all kinds of mechanisms that how a coordinated effort could be done by all of the organizations that can collaborate in this. The important aspect that organizations have already understood, many of organizations, while others are in the realizing phase, that any bad node in any specific organization, even a single node, can compromise all the system of at the layer 3, even at layer 2 at the national level. So this is how the coordination among the government organization and the private organization is very much needed. And they need some kind of standardization of the protocols of the sharing of the information. Threat incident response should be standardized in all the organizations, so there should be no kind of heterogeneous environment that they should not be knowing that how this should be done. So at the country level, all the government organizations, a standardized protocol for information sharing, a standardized protocol for the internal and external matters, could help the government organization to build a resilient kind of cybersecurity infrastructure that can help that specific country. And also my brother has mentioned of the cyber diplomacy, that is the responsible behavior as a state in the globe of the world. So that will raise your organization in the national level as a cyber diplomacy, as a responsible state that has a kind of comprehensive environment that has been deployed within the organization. And this could be driven by standardization of the protocols, standardization of the threat sharing mechanisms, standardization of the laws and regulations within all the sectors and all the organizations. So there should be harmony in all the sectors dealing with cybersecurity.
The importance of governmental entities collaborating together, and an attempt to show the importance of collaboration between the private and public sector. Mr. Chris, from your perspective, how does an enhanced network of corporate CSIRTs benefit the nation's overall cybersecurity posture and response efforts?
That's a very good question, and I fully agree with your comments. I'm going to sort of work it from the other side, I think. So, corporate CSIRTs, by their very nature, understand their networks better than anyone else does, to my mind. When I worked at Citi, we had a clearly global network. At one point, we were asked to internally ethically hack one of the payment systems, which moves $1 trillion a day. There's no way we were going to go anywhere near that thing, because we were so concerned that if we broke it, there would be a problem. And that's why people who work on the inside, know the system, understand how it works. The thought of government people coming in to try and fix your networks, advice, yes, expertise, yes, their ability to see the bigger picture, yes, technical knowledge of your networks, no. You are always, as a corporate CISO, going to have a better understanding of how your systems work, how they tie together, how critical they are to your business, how critical they are to any support you might be giving to government or to the national infrastructure or critical national infrastructure, critical national. So super important that we have these CSIRTs, these corporate CSIRTs that understand that. But they need to work with government. Government have a much deeper, the bigger picture. The government sharing network between governments is always going to have information that probably corporate CSIRTs aren't going to have. In the same way that corporate CSIRTs will have information that government doesn't really understand about their particular systems. So let's look at that. Critical national infrastructure in the UK at least is probably 80% private owned. It's owned, run and understood by those private businesses, some of whom are not British. Multinational companies in the UK. So again, trying to trying to get the thought that a national cert could turn up and take over and do stuff is sort of quite frightening in many ways, because I just don't think they understand how that works. But CNI and those various industries and CSERs in there will probably have a better information sharing network at a sort of a social level than many times the government, in their specific sectors. So banks have always talked to other banks. I was involved with the FSI Sac, which was set up in 1998. Hugely important, massive information sharing network, but focused on banks. They understand each other, they have commonality, they have similar risks and often similar solutions. So really, really vital that they exist in the ecosystem in their own way, but then they can start working together to fix problems, but then have that next segue or that access point into government. It allows us to take information that we get, corporate CSERs, and funnel it into government. It also allows government to push back data out through those information sharing networks and corporate CSERs. So it functions in two ways. In most other national crises, government controls the levers to fix things. So if there are fires, if there are famines, if there are floods, they own the police, they can direct the police, the hospitals, fire services and so on. That's not the case often in cyber. The government cyber incident response team is probably going to be quite small. It's not going to have thousands of people who can turn up on your sites and help you. That's just not the way it works. So the ability to interlock between the two is hugely important. And finally, I'd say working with CSERs. CSERs typically will be producing awareness and training for their own staff. Now that's hugely important for those businesses because they need to build a resilient cyber workforce. But every time they do that, that knowledge also gets transferred out into the wider society. They go home, hopefully they take those same awareness messages. So government through CSERs can push for better cyber awareness globally because that's the way the CSERs will roll anyway. But the CSERs can funnel up through government, tell them their problems, tell them their concerns, tell them where their pain points are, so government can hopefully fix those. It's an absolute ecosystem. Got to be there.
Thank you for showcasing the collaboration and functionality of that between both sectors. So, to conclude this part of the session with some final thoughts, Mr. Mohammed, can you highlight the efforts taken in managing incident response in your sector and in establishing regulation for cybersecurity and incident response?
Yeah, so just to add to that as well, is what we're looking at is not just incident response, but effective incident response. And what we mean by that is that there are many aspects that come into incident response, to effective incident response, and to follow up that as much as I can complete before an incident happens, the better. Because as soon as an incident is present, with the stress of the situation and handling the situation, some things need to be prioritized, some things need to be missed. So the idea is we put in effective regulations and policies beforehand that resolve many of our requirements during an incident before an incident even establishes. So QCB specifically, we mandate multiple regulations related to technology risk and incident reporting guidelines. And the idea is that we're ensuring a uniform and efficient documentation as well as speed in incident response. So even on Sunday, this previous Sunday, we released data handling and protection regulation, going over data governance, customer protection, disaster recovery, and business continuity. And working in collaboration with these regulations and ensuring these protections and efficient process, we're mandating, for example, specifications on the classification of an incident, just to make sure that across the sector and with us as QCB and now with the NIM, all incidents are aligned with each other. So whatever they report is translated seamlessly with us as a sectoral regulator and with the NCSA as a national level cert. Also unifying the reporting time and the response processes. And so in collaboration with these regulations and requirements, we also released a incident reporting platform that the financial sector has to report any and all types of incidents and to keep QCB closely aligned or keep us up to date with all the incident because some incidents begin as a technical issue, but then it clarifies into maybe a cyber incident or vice versa. So this incident reporting platform adheres to all of our regulations that you've processed, and it's in line with NCCA NIM as well as international requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. So the third and final part of this session covers capability development and sorts. To start with, Dr. Haider, can you highlight the efforts undertaken in developing cybersecurity capabilities of CNOs in Pakistan?
All right. So first I should highlight the global challenge of most of the developing countries that we have. They are mainly the technology consumers. They rely on the foreign technology. For industrial control systems, for SCADA systems, even the systems in the critical infrastructure is being procured, is not developed by that specific country. And the world has seen that in terms of Lebanon attack, what could happen in the context of supply chain that can actually evade or actually sabotage all the security or cybersecurity systems of that specific country or specific level. So the challenge with this, according to my understanding as a learner of cybersecurity and a student of cybersecurity, at least if you develop your own ingenious products that you have the confidence into that, or even you have the capability to assess and evaluate that specific product that you procure, having the screening and assessment capability if there is some kind of black box or some kind of vulnerabilities that has been embedded into that specific technology and being shipped to that specific area that can actually do multiple kind of tasks for those specific purposes. So in terms of capacity building, first of all, the ideal thing is that you develop your own capabilities in terms of skill set development, in terms of ingenious product development, in terms of tools and techniques. And we as a nation like Pakistan, we are in the process of developing consortium with the academia, with the industry that we have, and the government sector in a unidirectional way where we can develop our own ingenious products, ingenious technologies that we can rely on our own method. I'm not saying it will be a zero kind of risk, but there is some kind of confidence that you will have in these kind of technologies. So ingenious development, skill set development, coordination with the private sector that can help you to fund some of the initiatives like in Pakistan, in developing countries, or maybe some countries can join hands together and develop their own joint products that can be helpful for both the countries, or maybe the consortium of the countries that they have developed and they have the more trust factor into that specific technology. Because this is the challenge unless the technology remains, this will be a challenge, this will be a kind of advantage of the technology producer and the technology consumer that will draw a straight, sophisticated line. The technology developer will have the more control over the economies and over all the mechanisms that they have currently, having all the controls while everyone is having this kind of gadgets in their hand, and these gadgets can perform multiple tasks for multiple purposes, right? So similar things goes for the critical nations and the critical nation infrastructure where you deploy these kind of technologies, and these technologies actually not developed by your own specific skill set, or even you not have the capabilities to assess and evaluate to how it go wrong. So my opinion as a student, I believe that developing own capabilities, coordination, collaboration with all of the sectors, so come up with some kind of joint products or joint firms that can help, and we are actually doing this.
Right, and to build on that opinion, Mr. Khalid, having cyber enablement as a huge part of your area of expertise, what would you recommend is done to develop the cybersecurity capabilities of CNOs?
Well, as my colleagues mentioned in Honorable, it's important to secure and facing such risk, and to avoid that CSA having like with the connection of the entities and other lot of efforts that part. So we have policies, guidelines for the entities, supporting them to enhance their capability. On the other hand, we are supporting those entities with the consultation whenever it's required, and if there are any initiative could be placed there to support those entities by like our observation and monitoring. So we are going to recommend and send that for the CEOs. Also, like I would focus on the skills of the workforces who are working on such entities or organizations. So they need to be skilled, based on the lack of the resources and expertise in cybersecurity fields globally. It's important to have such programs, and we are as the CSA sponsors for the program which are reaching the country at the national level. We are reaching also different aids, which is important. Also preparing the future generation to be ready with the market and working with dealing with such cyber risk. On the other hand, also since we have incident management framework, it's important to have a regular drills for such stuff to exercise and make sure all the entities aware about the procedures mentioned there, and they know what's their responsibilities. So this is part of the plan for the coming period. On the other hand, we have different also initiatives in terms of R&D and innovation. So it's important to continue developing such stuff, as mentioned by my colleague. Supply chain is coming, so new challenge coming in the field that we can see, and we are expecting a lot within AI and going on within organizations and technologies. We should also use those technologies, on the other hand, to support and enhance our cybersecurity sections, threat intelligence, and monitoring fields and the other areas of cybersecurity. So I would say see no are targeted by attackers. This is important to know based on the role they are playing in the country. So we are working as an NCSA with a lot of initiatives to support those entities and trying to support them in different ways, even if we go on site sometimes to special cases just to make sure the gaps closed and have been secured.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid. And to just kind of conclude everything that has been said during this session, and as a final thought, Mr. Chris, do you foresee any challenges in implementing corporate C-certs in the nation? And what advice would you provide to overcome those challenges?
Gosh, many, yes. So I would say the big challenge in driving corporates to build a proper functioning, fully staffed, ready to go CISA is frequently cost. These are not cheap. You need people, you need training, you need functionality, you need facilities. There's a huge amount of cost to building a fully functioning CISA. I've seen it done. Many of the big banks have very well staffed organised CISAs because they found it very easy to say, if I get hacked, I lose money. Or if I get hacked, I lose trust. And as the chairman way back used to say, the only things we have are customers and trust. If we lose trust, then we will lose customers. So it's really important that businesses understand that there's a benefit to doing this. But again, when I worked in the UK government, their view was that incident response was a business cost. Businesses should have an incident response program that should be factored into their cost basis. There's a cost of doing business doing the same way that you have insurance for your directors and your cars, you have an incident response process. But clearly, we're in a world where multinational corporations come and go very quickly, they change, they're very dynamic, they're very fluid, that's really quite tricky. So how do you incentivize that? How do you make it such that the business sees the value in doing that? I would like to think That as a customer, when I'm choosing a product, I would go, these guys know what they're doing, they've got an incident response process, they're building secure stuff, this is great, I'm going to buy it from them. I'm not sure I do that, and I'm a techie guy. You know, most people I know are not doing that. They're looking for best value for money, they're looking for the cheapest or the latest or the best or the greatest. So it doesn't appear to be happening. So how do we change that paradigm? Business needs to understand that better cyber security can have a bottom line impact and save the money, and that will get you your executive buying to do stuff. I can still think of many, or I think we can all look back and see companies who haven't done this and have fallen badly. They sort of adopted that, it probably won't happen to me, so I don't need to do it, or I'm not going to do it well. I can certainly think of a number of companies that don't appear to have suffered financially when they've had an event or an incident. And that's sort of depressing to me. I would like to think that people would have an impact and they would see the value in doing this. So there's the cost side of it. How do we incentivize? How do we get a bottom line impact? The second challenge, I think, as people mentioned, is skills. There's a huge shortage. The IFCT folks a couple of years ago basically said there's a 4 million people shortage globally. As we automate, we will solve some of that. As AI comes in, potentially we will solve some of that. As AI comes in, are we going to have a bigger problem because the bad guys are going to use AI? So will it actually not give us the gains that we want to do? So I think as a state, you have two options. You've got a stick and you've got a carrot. The stick is regulation. You could regulate that everybody has an incident response. That's a very, very blunt tool. How would you police that? How would you regulate that? How would you go and check that an incident response is genuine, that it is smart, or that's just not on the card. I just don't see how that could happen. Government can create an environment where fines are in place if you get hacked. That's GDPR. That was put in primarily from a UK point of view, and I sat in on some of those discussions, that people weren't seeing customers impacted by big hacks. It was individuals who were losing money. So my data gets hacked, someone takes out a loan in my name, someone does something, I have a problem. The company that lost my data, nobody seems to care. So how do we regulate that? So that's GDPR, that's the stick that we have, and I think it works. I'm not sure we're seeing any fewer hacks, but I like to think it's getting better. The carrot could be having a financial benefit, so some form of discount on your insurance, some form of discount if you're applying for a loan for a business, you've got good cyber security. This is a really cool thing. Difficult to implement. And it calls for a lot of coordination on both sides. And because cyber security is not a point-in-time thing, it's not like today I'm secure, therefore I'll be secure for a year. It's today I'm secure, tomorrow I might be wholly insecure. So it's very difficult to fix that. One way I do like with the government, and the UK did this quite well, was to insist that every company that it did business with had an incident response plan. So you can choose not to. You're not going to get any business from the UK government. So if you're handling UK government data, you have to do what we used to call cyber essentials, which is fairly low level but good cyber hygiene. You patch, you update, you passwords, all those things that we all know we should do and that we all know will solve a lot of the problems we face, but people don't do it. So I like that. That's like a stick and a carrot in the same thing. You know, we're not going to force you to do it, but if you want to do it, we'll do business with you. But I think the answer is clearly a combination of all of those. There's regulation, there's sticks, there are carrots, there are things that we can do. But I think government needs to lead the way on this. So government leading the way to insist that companies it works with will have an incident response plan. Hopefully tells those first level contractors they're going to get better, and hopefully that will trickle down further down the supply chain as we move forward. So I think that's really important. They also need to lead the way in sharing, in showing that they care about cyber security, about incident response, and sharing information and bringing those people in such as a community rather than just a contractual relationship. So the information sharing platforms we talked about, the ability to just take that information and share it very quickly, very widely, and at pace. So I think those are all really, really important things. Events like today. This is really important. You're getting out there in public, showing people you care about incident management, showing people there's a process, showing that the government of Qatar is working on it. Hugely, hugely valuable. Sends a message to the community, to business, and to civil society. So this just alone is part of that process.
And on that note, I would like to thank our distinguished panelists for their valuable insights on the significance of CSIRTs and CERTs in collaborative national cybersecurity incident management, and to all of you for being great listeners. I hope this session was as informative and enjoyable to you as it was for us. And And I would also like to remind you to kindly scan the QR code that will be shown on the screen should you have any questions, and our team will get back to you promptly. Thank you.
From on a daily basis, incidents are happening. Now, what basically has been done is that we classify the incidents, right? So we have, P1, P2 incidents. Now, some of the incidents can become a crisis. So, based on your risk tolerance level, this is something which we have already built up when we were actually building our business continuity plans. And we knew that you have to prioritize only those incidents where it goes beyond the threshold level. So these risk tolerance already defined ensures that if you are almost there, where you have what rightly said, that revenue impact, reputational impact, lives of employees are in threat. So definitely that calls for a crisis. Now, I will try to also differentiate first between cyber crisis and any other crisis, because we already seen COVID-19 and other crises happening. So cyber crisis again, what I can see is that the scope is very limited to the IT infrastructure. Now their health or lives of employees are not in stake, right? So we basically try to look at the scope, and we also do what we call as a damage assessment. Now, when you do an assessment, you basically look at your customer impact. Now, being a telecom company, you will have areas where there are very largely populated, areas where very less subscribers are there. So, based on the location, based on the customer impact, revenue impact, you start looking at the losses, and then you involve the leadership team. The moment the leadership team declares a crisis, it is like an emergency situation. So you declare an emergency, and why I'm telling you this is where the complete focus of the senior management is towards how they manage this situation. Which means you have to open a war room, you have to stop all the activities which are there in the organization as a BAU, and you are absolutely focusing on your mitigation and eradication of the situation. So this is how we classify from a normal incident and a crisis. Thank you very much.
Also, I would like to add that consistency in classification leads to a faster and more coordinated action. Thank you for sharing your experience. Mr. Osama, your experience included cyber strategy and transformation, and technology is constantly evolving, introducing new risks and response challenges. Now we have artificial intelligence, we have machine learning, quantum computing. So, do you think this will change the way we traditionally manage incidents and crises?
So first of all, thank you very much for having me. Great pleasure to be with you. Absolutely. I think in the ever-increasing digital world that we're living in today, the introduction of new emerging technologies, be it AI today, something else tomorrow, quantum computing, it's gonna introduce first new types of risks. The risk landscape is gonna be expanding, and accordingly, this calls for us to review our threat profiles. What does it mean in terms of implications? And that will allow us to understand how to control those evolving risks that are being introduced by the introduction of the emerging technologies. Where does that take us? If we look at examples, for example, for AI in critical national infrastructure in the oil and gas industry, if we're talking about AI use cases for reservoir simulations, if we talk about optimizations in the oil and gas operations, this introduces threats related to possibly espionage, data leakage, and those controls will need to be dealt with differently because with AI introduction, that means I need to be risk sensing, I need to be aware of what type of controls I need to be put in place, and what are the relevant AI risks that I need to be looking into. If we also take into consideration, I think in the previous panels, they came across supply chain risks. Also, that is something that we need to take into consideration because it is going to be having an implication from the AI introduction across the entire supply chain, with third parties, fourth parties, and how does that also have an implication on the way we want to respond to cyber incidents. Similarly, what we need to do beyond just looking at what are the implications, how can we benefit from the introduction of these emerging technologies into the way we respond to incidents? So how is AI, for example, going to automate the way we detect, we respond, and how AI can help us, or at least assist us, in reducing the time of understanding that we are dealing with a cyber incident, and accordingly contribute into better notification and going forward with the rest of the steps of the incident response as per the framework.
Thank you. Indeed, and also the frameworks that we discussed today must also evolve alongside these technological shifts. We have talked about classification and the role of technology in shaping incident response. Now let's examine whether incident and crisis response functions overlap. Does this create clarity or confusion? So I would direct that question to you, Mrs. Aisha. How do the cyber incident response and cyber crisis response complement each other? Is there a room for confusion, or that will be managed seamlessly?
So for incident management framework and crisis management framework, both framework works in parallel to serve different aspects. If we have, for example, any incident and we received that notification and different teams was convened, such as the IR team and the authorization group, the incident response, who will take care of the technical aspects of that incident. But they will do that. They will try to contain that incident. They will try to identify the problem, find the root cause, and resolve the incident. While the AG group at that time will take care of the strategic response and also the oversight of the incident. Once the crisis is declared at that time, the AG group will hand over this responsibility to the CMT group, the crisis management team. As well, we have different groups that will collaborate at the same time, which is NCSA partners. We have the law enforcement at the same time. So the AG group will ensure the communication that will happen seamlessly between these different groups, including the CMT group and incident response. So once the CMT take that strategic response, the AG group will continue the oversight of the incident. So we ensure that there is no overlap and confusion of both frameworks.
Thank you very much. And I believe that this is a key operational challenge. Maybe some level of overlap is unavoidable, but as you said, it can be seamlessly coordinated with structured response and into an effective one. So, Mrs. Noura, what's your opinion on this? Do you foresee a functional overlap between incident response and the cyber crisis?
I would refrain from using the word overlap because overlap means that there's a confusion. So there is no overlap, there is a high level of coordination, and actually you just took my answer. So I will give an example here. I will give a national example for the lack of coordination. So the 2013 top-level domain started as an incident, but that incident was not properly managed, leading it to becoming a crisis on a national level. Should there have been a proper protocol for crisis management to evoke in place at the time, that wouldn't have spun the way it did. So that is a very important point when Asha said that they are two parallel streams that work together. So when there is a declared crisis, the incident streamline still works, but there are a lot of touching points. There are a lot of communication channels. From Asha's description, what I can also analyze and say, when we look into a business or into an organization, Incident response or incident management looks into the internal issues, whereas crisis management looks outwards, looks at the outward-facing issues from the indicators that I have just responded to in my first question.
Thank you for highlighting that point. Mr. Arnab, as a business continuity and crisis manager in Vodafone Qatar, you know that a shift in mindset is often the difference between an effective response and a reactive approach. And leadership plays a crucial role in shaping this mindset. So how can top leadership influence change in policies and tuning teams for improved readiness for cyber crisis?
Thanks for asking that question. Actually, the way we have been working, we always take the leadership team along, which means that, if there is a failover or a backup, so if you have any service which is down, that doesn't mean that the leadership is not aware. When the leadership is made aware that we are at a single point of failure, which means that the leadership has already started working. They are strategically aligned, they know exactly what are the new changes which needs to be done. One, because of their past experience and the way they would have handled in their other organizations, they bring a lot of collective information on the table. Now that helps us to take certain ad hoc decisions, because we need to understand one very simple logic here. In crisis, there is no standard procedures. If there are standard procedures, it is an incident. If there are ad hoc decisions, it is a crisis, right? So you need to understand that there is a lot of brainstorming in this kind of war rooms which I am trying to discuss. Now, definitely the senior management will bring a lot of changes in the policies, because that is the need of the hour, right? So we have seen in the past, and people have already managed that. Let's take a very common thing in COVID-19. That will give you a very clear example of how the policies change. So we didn't have any work from home policy. So employees used to come and they have an attendance system, and they have to be in the office to be present physically. But the company changed. We had a work from home. We had to log in the morning, and we have to give our attendance that once you log in, and then there are various means of recording that yes, this person has been engaged. So what I'm trying to say is that the policies will change based on the crisis demands, and leadership has always ensured that they are always on top of the things, so they need regular updates. So this is something which has been very challenging for me, because as Aisha was saying, that there are two different teams. Now, who is the bridge between the leadership team and the incident management team? It is the team which communicates with both of them, understands the incident, communicates back to the management, because unless you have that channel properly established, you will never be able to take your what we call as informed decisions. So to make that thing possible, we ensure that we have clear transparency on what the technical teams are doing, and based on that, senior management start taking actions. So I think this is the need of the hour, and this is where you break the silos. Breaking silos is one of the key important aspects of managing a crisis.
Thank you very much. That's a great point you raised, and great examples also you shared with us. Mr. Tamer, since you have experience with cyber resiliency, embedding cyber resilience into corporate culture ensures that response teams aren't just following procedures, but are actively engaged in continuous readiness. So what are the tactical changes that organizations should consider for their existing resilience frameworks to ensure that embedding cyber incident and crisis at the head of it?
Brilliant question, and I think organizations today, they already have resilience frameworks in place. The majority of the organizations, based on their maturity, will have ISO 22301, they will have crisis management frameworks in place, and they will manage the overall business continuity, resilience, and crisis management as different levels of response in the organization. The organization, as a first step, need to comprehend the new cyber incident management framework. They will need to understand and start mapping the requirements to their existing frameworks. So they look, for example, at the escalation levels. When do I need to start the handshaking process with the national regulatory authorities? And understand, to the earlier points of the ladies, what is it that constitutes an escalation to a national level? This is the most critical part of understanding the framework and the requirements of the framework. Once that understanding and the mapping of the requirements to the internal frameworks takes place, they need to make sure that this linkage is being translated into tactical steps. What does that mean? Roles and responsibilities. Who's going to be responsible for any escalation mechanisms that need to take place outside the borders of the organization? Is it going to go through our cyber team? Is it going to go through our compliance team? Is it going to go through any other teams? And how do we ensure that the timeliness of notifications is being monitored properly? If you notice in the framework, the NCSA is asking for prompt notification whenever there is a national crisis that is being suspected, a cyber national crisis that is being suspected, which means the timeliness and the communication on a timely manner is of an extreme importance. So that's the second point. Third, as part of understanding the roles and responsibilities, organizations should try and manage the new requirements from the framework within the existing teams and not to add more complexity by creating different teams. What do I mean by this? The mapping exercise should always take into consideration the practicality aspects of implementing the required controls and making sure that these escalations are being enhanced. We are not adding new levels, no, we are enhancing our existing escalations so that they accommodate the way we want to deal with cyber. I think one of the common mistakes I've seen from my experience is the islands that Arnav mentioned, and that we're dealing with different incidents without having that proper holistic view and having one umbrella coverage for all type of incidents with specifications related to each type of incident, and I think NIMF is going to help tremendously in having that specifics to the overall framework. The last point I wanted to bring to the attention, which is a recommendation for all of the organizations going into this journey now, when in doubt, consult. It's better that you communicate a cyber incident that you are not 100% sure it warrants a national escalation. It's better that you communicate it than wait and then contribute without your knowledge to a national cyber incident because you did not notify on time. So this is definitely something that I would like to recommend everyone.
Thank you very much. That's an important perspective, so thank you for explaining it clearly. I have a question for both of you, Nora and Aisha. So we hear from you and from the panelists that managing cyber incidents and the crisis requires coordination across multiple agencies and organizations. So the challenge is ensuring seamless collaboration. So how can you improve this coordination between various entities and agencies? And since you are from NCSA, so you are dealing with the whole nation. So when responding to incident response, with incidents and crisis. So I will start with you.
So I'm a very firm believer of implementing by design. Now going into silos and creating two different frameworks and then have them communicate, which is exactly what we have done within this team. So both teams have been working together to actually coordinate, because coordination is at the heart of the National Cyber Crisis Management Framework. It's at the heart of any crisis management framework. So with that being said, there is a high level of coordination between the two teams to avoid any confusion that we have spoke about earlier. And it's very, very important for incident management to have proper anticipation in place on where and when they need to evoke the crisis management protocols.
talking about the collaboration and coordination, and this was like the topic of our last panel discussion. We talked about the law enforcement role and the coordination between NCSA and the role of law enforcement as well, and how we work together. As well, we talked about the different CERT team. We talked about the national CERT, we talked about the sectoral CERT, and the importance of corporate CERT as well. So having this coordination between different entities is the most important, and this is the reason and the main purpose of developing these frameworks, to have this coordination. So the entities need to align with the national incident response plan and the national crisis plan as well. At the same time, we encourage all the entities, as Mr. Tamer said, that they need to have their own incident response plan and crisis plan that aligns to the national plan, and as well, it is really important for them to have these plans to identify the roles and responsibilities and escalation matrix. The last point, to be able to have this plan, to implement this plan, to build the capabilities, you need different capabilities within your entities. You need to have these different teams. You need to have incident response team within the entity, and you need also to have the awareness and also the training to the employees.
Thank you very much. And in my opinion, also, a fragmented incident response sometimes can be as damaging as the incident itself. So, thank you. Mr. Tamer, you helped enabling national authorities in different countries in major programs like national resilience programs. And since you know cyber threats don't stop at national borders, so from your experience, what role could international partnership play in effective response strategies for both incident response and crisis response?
Yeah, I think it's a crucial aspect as part of the overall incident and crisis management responses. International collaborations enable you with better visibility, enables you with capacity building, and I think in the previous discussions, my colleagues from the Interpol and from other organizations highlighted the importance of the international collaborations. At a national level, what you want to do, you want to ensure that you have the right visibility, the right threat intelligence, and you want to ensure that you have the right communication mechanism that takes place, because threat sensing and risk sensing is a key driver into successful response. And that cannot happen without international collaborations. But it's not just international. It has to go through multiple layers. So the way we typically recommend how international collaborations and national collaborations should work, it starts first from the initiation of an incident within the borders of an organization. And then it can escalate into a crisis, or it can start as a crisis, which means this will require collaboration with the wider stakeholders of the organization. That can lead also to a national escalation, which means multiple entities at a national level will be involved. So the collaboration and identification of these stakeholders need to be taking place as early as possible. After that, you reach to a level whereby this might be at a sector level. So sectoral collaborations is extremely important, and the regulators of the sector will also need to be defined and communicated with, pre-arranged, probably as well doing simulations at a sector level so that you ensure you are participating and you are taking part of that sort of assignment of roles and responsibilities. At a regional level, there are multiple industries today, like oil and gas, for example. There is a GCC, Cybersecurity Committee, through which cyber threat intelligence sharing platforms is being established, communication across how do we respond to incidents, sharing similar threats at an industry level, and all of these aspects becomes reality when you work on regional collaborations. Then you go into the international level, and accordingly you will have each and every country contributing to the international forums, with the likes of Interpol and others, so that you can get that sort of intelligence and make sure that as a country, we are part of the wider global response capabilities.
Thank you very much, and thank you for shedding light on that. So before we close the discussion, I have a question for the four panelists. A well-prepared organization organization can detect, prevent, and respond to threats more effectively. So, how can organizations be better prepared to identify and prevent potential cyber incidents and cyber crises? And what proactive measures could be considered? So I will start with you, Ms. Nora.
So when we talk about crisis management, there is no one size that fits all. We need to look into the scale of the organization. Larger organizations should and naturally would have dedicated teams for crisis management with dedicated procedures and processes in place to anticipate, assess, and for better preparedness. On the other hand, smaller organizations may not have dedicated teams, but this role still needs to be assumed by the cybersecurity or information security or even the risk management team to put in place the right processes and procedures. NCSA have also identified the need for such frameworks and processes, and for that we're not only working towards a national cyber crisis management framework, but we also have in place, and it's coming to life soon, the enterprise crisis management framework, which is an excellent tool for organizations to be used as a common language on a national level, as a common understanding, and to be applied. And the benefit also of that framework is that if you remove all the cyber aspect from it, it can be an enterprise crisis management framework, not just cyber.
Thank you. Asha?
To be proactive, you need to have like different capabilities. So you need to have the continuous monitoring. You need to enhance the detection capabilities in the entities. Second, we need a regular risk assessment. We need to be able to identify all vulnerabilities before being exploited. Well-defined incident response plan, as we explained previously, you need to have data plan, you need to have the people who will implement as well data plan. The cyber drills and simulation, you need to test your plan as well. Forensics readiness, and I would like to highlight this point because it is really required for entity to understand the forensics readiness. You need to understand how to make the data available for investigation, for finding the root cause of the incident. So I would really highlight this point that the entity need to focus on the preparation of the forensics readiness. The last point is the cybersecurity awareness. The entity need to have the awareness because most of the incidents happens because of phishing attack, and it is because of human factor.
Can be avoided.
Yes.
Mr. Rana?
Yeah, I think most of the points have been shared. What I right now feel is we have been doing a lot of exercises, testing, but there has to be a joint exercise with NCSA and other stakeholders because I feel that somewhere that building that trust is very, very important. And at what time you need to ensure that you need to take help from the external agencies, because during such kind of a crisis you would need external support. So this is where I'm trying to showcase this time that whatever frameworks are being now brought in by the government, this has to be implemented, tested with the supporting agencies. So that is the most important thing. We have been participating in a lot of STAR cyber drills and every year. So I think that can be also extended to ensure that you also work along with your vendors, partners, so that you actually do more of awareness of your processes. So the moment you are sharing your process, people come to know that yes, this is the stage where they jump in, right? So there is no chaos or confusion, during such kind of people start knocking the door, and when you just try to already doing your internal, mitigations. So there has to be a kind of a protocol at that time, and so I think if you look at today AI and other ways of monitoring, that can also enhance a bit more to ensure that you have a proper what we call a situational awareness. This is something which is a practice. This is doing quality horizon scanning or insufficient, because today the organization has to see whatever is happening in and around, be aware of it. The command center which we are talking about, that has to have the capability of showing what the other organizations are responding, and you learn from them.
Thank you very much. And I would like to add also that organizations that invest in continuous training, tabletop exercises, and real-world simulations are the ones that recover fastest when a crisis hits. Mr. Tama?
I think my colleagues and fellow panelists summarized it well. If I want to just add one aspect, which I think is extremely important, I think it's the mindset shift. Cyber incidents are going to happen, and we need to deal with them business as usual, and we need to be very comfortable reporting them when we need to report. From the analysis that I've conducted on the majority of the failures in incident management responses and crisis management responses, if you look at the root causes, it's always about timeliness, proper notification and proper understanding of the escalation procedures, the right understanding of the roles and responsibilities. The understanding of this and the change in the mindset is going to enable us for better response, and is going definitely to enable us in achieving the objectives behind having all of these frameworks, because they are helping us organizing the way we operate, but the mindset and trusting that this process is there to protect us and to help our businesses need to be embedded in the culture. And absolutely, I think with the AI, we're going to be seeing a lot of assistance in the way we detect and the way we respond. But mindset, for me, is one of the key aspects.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank all of you. Today's discussions has reinforced the importance of structured frameworks in managing cyber incident and crisis. We have explored the key differences between incident response and crisis response, the impact of emerging technologies, and the necessity of a clear coordination between government agencies and the private sector. One key insight from this panel is that cybersecurity resilience is not just about technology, as you said, Mr. Tamer. It's about leadership, preparation, and collaboration. Having the right frameworks in place allows organizations to respond decisively, minimize damage, and prevent escalation. As cybersecurity and cyber threats continue to evolve, it is essential for organizations to stay proactive, refine their crisis management strategies, and foster stronger partnership at both national and international levels. I want to extend my gratitude to our panelists for their valuable insights, and I want to thank the audience for being here and listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.